Hey, how's it going, everyone? You're listening to episode 48 of the Rogue Riders podcast. So, controversy is defined as a prolonged dispute, debate, or opinion. And I think we can all agree that this year has had tons of controversy. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, controversial topics of 2019. But first, my name's Nick, and I'm joined by four talented writers here. So if you guys don't mind, just say your name and what you do, and we'll go ahead and get started. Amy.
Hey, I'm Amy, and I'm the SEO manager here.
Hello, this is Shannon, and I'm a writer here.
My name's Adam, and I'm also a copywriter.
Hi, I'm Tori, and I'm also a writer here.
Awesome. All right, so first topic on our list here. So a lot of modern politicians are following what's called the Billy Graham rule, which means male politicians are basically never going to be seen with women. When they travel, they always have an extra man on board, or in any other events, they always make sure that they're never seen alone with a woman. And all that is an image thing, just to make sure that people don't misconstrue, think they're having an affair or something like that. But the reason it's controversial is because a lot of feminists think it's sexist, because why see a woman as, it's this threatening thing, I gotta have somebody extra in the room. Why can't they be treated equally? Like, it's like they're catering to the haters out there that are gonna make these assumptions. But other people think it's safe because it's preventing any assumptions that they're having an affair and that kind of thing. So which side are you guys on? Do you think there's more safe, or is it sexist because it's not lending to the independence of women in this case?
Yeah, I think that I'm with they're being safe and stuff, because the whole reason they started doing this was because there was a lot of men who were taking advantage of women. And so they were doing this to protect the women from being taken advantage of. I feel like I can see why the woman might feel like I read in the article, I was like, oh, so you just see women as objects, and so you can't be seen with this. But really, it's just if there's so many women who go alone with men and they feel uncomfortable, so this is kind of decreasing the chance of them being taken advantage of or sexually abused. That's how I feel.
Even if they're political cohorts, say a campaign manager, and somebody's running for mayor or whatever, even when they know each other and all that. So I feel like this is just so nobody assumes it. It's for the outside world rather than for the woman fearing for her life.
Yeah, I really feel like it boils down to the way the paparazzi and the news work, how they're constantly looking for things to report about, and things like that, affairs and, what's going on. Yeah, that's really popular. That gets them a lot of views.
That makes sense, yeah.
I can definitely see with the Me Too movement where some men are just paranoid about that, just being accused.
Mm-hmm.
So if they don't have any, backup, if they are alone with a woman, it's easy for that to happen. But then again, I see the flip side that, I think in the article it mentioned somebody, being afraid to even be mentor women in a work situation.
Yeah,
and
that's how it can affect equality.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. It's tricky. I see how some men are just paranoid. They think they can be falsely accused. Mm-hmm. So, or even Shannon said, have pictures taken and stories made up about it. So.
For sure. In that article, it even said Mike Pence refuses to eat with women that aren't his wife or whatever, which, if you're an up-and-coming woman, you're working under Mike Pence, that could hurt your political career. If he's going to go out to dinner with 5 of his bros, and then he has this rule where, no, he's not going to do the same thing with a few women because they're not his wife, then they're not going to get that same information or the same insider treatment,
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think, Adam?
I agree, going off what Amy said, that I not to cop out, but I can kind of see both sides on that pretty clearly, and that, I don't think it's good for women because, it closes off opportunities to them that may be available to men because, if people are scared to mentor them or show them what to do, it could hurt them in terms of it. But from a male perspective, I mean, a lot of the guys who have gone down in Me Too and stuff obviously deserved it or were guilty, but we have also seen false accusations or stories that have been, sort of spun out of proportion. And if you're someone in a position of power, like a politician, then you're always a potential target for that.
Yeah.
So I do understand, like, from that perspective, why they're so wary of trying to protect their reputation at all costs. But I ultimately, I think it's bad for men and women. Like, yeah, it's really not good for anybody in the end.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's taken the high road. Like, I don't know, if I was running for office, I don't know, I would like to think I wouldn't give a crap about that rule, because it's really just playing into other people who are going to make assumptions about you. And it's like, when is that a good way to live your life? Like, oh, they might assume that we're together, so, we can't go for a walk, or we can't, it's just ridiculous. Like, it's like living your life around other people's expectations, essentially.
I think part of what would help that trend is if we stopped essentially trying people in the media and having them be like, if you didn't do anything, they're not going to be able to prove that you did something, so you've got nothing to worry about. But I think what people are more worried about now is that now just a headline sometimes is enough to kind of throw doubt onto your career forever.
Absolutely.
Even if there's no evidence whatsoever. So I think that's what leads to some of these like really overly cautious sort of policies.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think it is the media. Like, it's their fault because like they think all men are just gonna like take advantage of the women, and so now since like it's kind of hard to go back from that because like all of the men are just lumped in the same category, and it's just like, well, like what if you do something to like this woman, or like, so
Yeah, that really reminds me of men who are in childcare and child careers, where there's a lot of false accusations there. I've known some men, some friends who worked with children, and they were falsely accused, even though they did nothing wrong, and they had to change jobs.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That was brutal. This also reminds me of the Keanu Reeves photos. Like, he's really good at riding that line and avoiding the whole Me Too thing. Have you guys seen this?
Yeah, that's right.
Where he'll take his picture, and with any woman he takes a picture with, you can see his open hand on the other side.
Yeah.
So he's just like become known for that, and there's a lot of memes about it. But just, to avoid any controversy, it was like have his arm around a woman with his hand wide open, just showing that, hey, not getting freaky over here. I'm just taking a picture. That's it. But yeah, so that's pretty interesting. So Macy's received complaints about a certain product. Tori, you want to fill us in on that one?
Yeah, so Macy's, they started selling these plates. They were supposed to be portion control plates, and so they had like for example, one of them had like 3 rings, and on the outside it said mom jeans, and then and the inside favorite jeans, and then skinny jeans was like the smallest circle. And so they're basically just saying like, if you want to be able to fit into this size jeans, or like if you like it basically to help people with their eat a certain amount to control their weight and stuff like that. But a lot of people who like took it too far, and they started developing like eating disorders, and so everyone got really like paranoid about it, and told Macy's like, this is body shaming and this is encouraging eating disorders. So they had Macy's take out the plates.
Oh man, so they caved into the pressure, huh?
Yeah.
Oh man. So do you guys think they did the right thing by caving into the pressure? Like, what's the worst case scenario if they were just ignored all these tweets and just kept selling? Like, what could happen to Macy's? There'd be that big a boycott or something? Or,
I
like,
guess there could be. I mean, it changes their reputation, I guess.
oh,
The more
really?
people
By
talk
not.
about it, right?
Yeah, that's
So they
true.
wanted to avoid any, idea that
Controversy.
they're like, not being sensitive or
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I think the celebrities, they have a really big voice and stuff, and like they have a lot of followers and a lot of fans, and so people will like take their side. And if the celebrities say, oh, they're selling it, it's a bad product, then like a majority of people will agree, and they could boycott Macy's, or their sales could decrease for their other products. I can see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
With the way that people hound on things online, it can really hurt people's and companies' reputations.
I'm sure they had a meeting where they're like, okay, what's the cost of not selling these ridiculous plates again? And it's like, okay, whatever that is. And it's like, what's the cost of losing these million customers because they hate that product? And I'm sure that far outweighed it. And most likely it was a money decision, to be honest. That's what I'm thinking. But what do you think, Adam?
I mean, I don't think there's anything offensive about the plates, like, and I think that kind of, to me, it fits under. If people are complaining about that, to me, it fits under the category of like you probably should focus on bigger issues because I just like I don't really see how it could possibly affect you what other people buy. Like if you don't want it, then don't buy it. But yeah, I think it's just another example of like a company clearly wanting to avoid any controversy, which is kind of the standard now. In that, as you guys were saying, that it's easier to just if there anything controversial surfaces, it's easier to just remove yourself from it entirely than address it at all or try to justify what you're doing or like have a conversation. It's too scary for people now. They just want to remove themselves from it.
It is easy, especially since I mean, a lot of department stores similar to Macy's have gone completely out of business recently. So they're probably just like, nope, keep everyone happy at all costs. But
I could see it getting out of hand though. I think the original person who posted it on social media, they posted a picture of it and said, "Is this the the image that we want or the idea that we want to promote to women, like shaming them basically." But I could see people getting upset about certain clothing that they find in the store, or even, I was thinking about this, like the advertising. I know like Kohl's and probably Target, they have like all different body sizes in their advertising. So I could see somebody getting all upset about that too, and it just, I don't know.
it's like, where does it end?
Yeah, where does it end? I
So,
don't know.
so what is so offensive about these plates? Like, what do people think? Why are they offensive? Can
Well,
anybody?
Well, they think that, so it's basically saying, because like the small circle is like skinny jeans, and so they think that it's saying people, if you want to be skinny, you can only eat this amount of food. But really, like in my opinion, like I think it matters on the kind of food. Like you can have a salad that like goes to the edge of the plate, and like
Yeah.
and like for example, like I think like mom jeans are like really cute right now, and they're like in style. So like some people might be like, oh, like I like mom jeans, so I don't care. I'm gonna eat that much. Like, but people are like other people think that like, oh, I can only eat that much, and so that's how they develop eating disorders.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. It's like deeply flawed because it's like, okay, what food goes in those things?
Yeah.
You know, you could have a tower of cheeseburgers, like a whole stack, just in that small circle, and it's like you're not wearing skinny jeans after you're eating all that.
The other thing too is that there's lots of skinny people who don't eat healthy at all. They just like work out. You know,
Yeah,
like, there's like you
They're
don't.
just
That's not.
ectomorph
Yeah,
body type.
yeah. Eating small portions isn't the only way to control your weight. That's just like one. That's actually probably the hardest way to control your weight
That's a
because
good
most people
point.
like to eat.
Yeah, they do like Weight Watchers. You got to document every little thing you eat.
Yeah, I think that's one of the
Versus-
harder ways to do it. Honestly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because like keto or paleo or something, you could just, okay, those are your general rules. Eat what you want. You don't have to document it necessarily. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting. So, without delving too much here into politics, the president cut back food stamps for 3 million people. Okay, so it's a controversial thing. I mean, I personally don't know anybody who uses food stamps, but I did see a few stories on it or whatever, and it looks like it's a lot of like, I don't know, immigrants, a lot of the elderly, that kind of thing. What are you guys' opinion of food stamps, and do you know anybody who use food stamps, and ultimately what type of people, what's the first demographic that comes to mind? And your guy, like for you guys, is it, oh man, lazy people that should have worked harder, like who's working McDonald's their whole life? Are those the main people, or is it more, people who are genuinely like handicapped, disabled, or elderly, too much so they can't work or injured that get them? Like, what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I think there are some people who ruin it, for everybody, of course, and take advantage of it, but I think the majority are people who really need it to get by. The elderly population. They can't go out and work.
Yeah.
Some of them are disabled for whatever reason, and they really depend on things like that. They live on a really fixed budget, and so do other disabled people. So I think it would be devastating to lose that for some people. But
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so too. And I feel like a lot of the immigrants also, rely on this kind of help as well, because a lot of them, they're not necessarily college educated a lot of times. They're taking the jobs that they may need that supplementation. So, Yeah, I think there's a lot of good people on them too. It'd be interesting to see an exact stat about, okay, how many people legitimately need them versus how many are abusing them. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's more one way or the other? What do you think, Zoe?
Yeah, I think that, so I don't know anyone personally on them, but I've seen a lot of like families with kids or like single moms, they've been on it and stuff, and I think it's really good for them, like especially like single moms who like there's only one person. It's really hard to like support family with one income, so I feel like that's good. But I feel like if they wanted to cut back on it, maybe they could like make the requirements like stricter, like you can only have this if you're actively looking to like support yourself and actively looking for a job, or you can like eventually get off food stamps, you know. Like I feel like people shouldn't be on them forever. They should be working towards, I mean, unless you're like elderly or like handicapped, but like if you're able to work and they see that you're like working and trying your best and trying to get off of them, then I think that that's the people who deserve the food stamps.
That makes sense for sure. You guys have any thoughts on the food stamps thing?
Well, the people that I have kind of known through other people were mostly young single moms who, you know, weren't really able to work very much because they had to take care of their kid, and
Yeah.
they can't really afford childcare either. And so they're really dependent on society to, you know, kind of give back to them. And I don't think that's really a bad thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Though-
I don't think so either. What's
The
up, Ben?
the only thing I would add, I don't remember exactly because it's been a bit since I've read the article, but from what I understand, the coverage of this is a little bit misleading in that it was actually, he didn't cut back food stamps like changing the requirements for food stamps. It was a loophole in that if you enrolled in a certain welfare program, you automatically got food stamps. That's what he got rid of. So that people no longer automatically get food stamps for joining that certain welfare, because it was a purely budget cut decision. In other words, saying, all right, well, this would be an easy way to cut back money because these people are already receiving other benefits, so I don't think they really need the food stamps in addition, which they're not signing up for. It's just automatically included. So I don't
Yeah.
know it well enough to know, like, I would have to read more about like what's included in that welfare to know, like, is it really like is it really hurting those people to take away the food stamps or not? I'm not sure, but I do know that it's not just a matter of him saying like, all right, we're cutting
Yeah,
the
we're cutting
food
off
stamps.
food
It's not like
stamps.
that. It was a
Yeah.
specific loophole that he was addressing.
And it sounded like you could still like go and apply separately for
Right.
them. It's not like they're changing the requirements at all. It's just getting rid of the ones that are just automatically enrolled.
Because he's figuring that's wasting money
Yeah.
for a lot of people who may not need it or be aware.
Exactly.
But yeah, I definitely don't think there's anything bad about food stamps in general. I mean, I think it's important to have safety nets for people who need it.
Yeah. I thought it was crazy too. That's a good point. I thought it was crazy too. This affects 3 million people. Like, I had no idea there was that many people on food stamps.
There's
That's a
way
lot.
more because this is only the
Yeah,
people
this
in
is
the
only the
loophole.
people
So
who are
yeah,
losing them.
right.
yeah, it
So
must be
there's
a lot
probably
more.
A lot more who are actually on them.
Well, with the way that the economy was for so long, I can see it.
True.
Oh, you mean like how more people would need them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think now that the economy seems to be doing better, hopefully people will be able to start getting better jobs and hopefully affording without food stamps in the future.
That's a good point, because like I read this and looked at the comments on social media when it was posted on Facebook, and there was a lot of people talking about how like, oh yeah, I have a friend who drives a Lexus and she still uses food stamp. So I mean, it'd be interesting to know how prevalent that is. And plus, one other thing that I do know is that whenever you're given a life on easy street, you know, whatever that is, the longer you're in that lifestyle, the harder it is to come out and be successful again. You know what I mean? Like, if you take a 6-month sabbatical, it'd be a lot harder to get back into, you know, working. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting. It just sucks though, in a sense, because like food stamps, they're not using that to buy cars. That's like survival
Yeah.
type stuff. So I think that just tugs at the heartstrings in that way a little bit. But all right, Miss Michigan, Kathy Zhu, got in a little bit of trouble. Lost her title. What do you think, Adam? You want to talk about that?
Sure. So yeah, she won the beauty pageant title of Miss Michigan, and I guess somebody, whoever was going through her Twitter account and decided that they took issue with what was in there, and that controversy sort of spread from there and turned into a whole news story. There was one tweet about her from National Hijab Day where she didn't want to wear a hijab, and she took issue with the idea of trying to force women to wear hijabs. And she had another one about where she was arguing with someone about black on black crime and showing statistics of how black on black crime is very high. So some people are accusing, is she racist? Is she being intolerant, sort of calling out other communities that she's not a part of? I think she was also pictured wearing a MAGA hat, so it shows that she supports Donald Trump. And that's an issue for a lot of. So basically, the beauty pageant just decided that she was too controversial and just cut her off. They just they removed her from they removed her title. So what do you guys think? Do you think that was fair? Do you think that she did anything to deserve that, or do you think it's a case of overreacting?
Well, I think it definitely boils down to whoever's the CEO of that beauty pageant. They might just be like super, like, oh, we don't want anyone at all rocking the boat. But one thought I had too is like, it's a friggin' beauty pageant, man. It's not like she's going to be in charge of guns or, she's not a leadership position necessarily. So it's like, why strip her of her title? Why not be like, oh, there's these 40 liberal, typical ones, and then there's also Kathy Zhu, if you like her. So it's like, I don't understand why they took such a rash action to strip her of her title.
I think they were afraid it was like just the tip of the iceberg. Like she was going to be even more controversial. And I know she's kind of like the spokesperson for the pageant now, being, Miss Michigan. So she speaks for them. So if they don't support, her points of view, then I can see how they might freak out and feel like they have to do something before it gets too blown out of proportion, too controversial.
Yeah, it's kind of a running theme with a lot of these stories that it's just easier to cut something off rather than, try to keep going with it.
Yeah, and I don't think it's fair that she was stripped just because of her opinions, because she wasn't directly trying to spread hate or anything. She was just saying her opinion on these topics, and so I feel like they should have allowed someone with different views so that people of all sides of the spectrum could relate with her. And I feel like you should be able to have someone unique and have different views. And for the sorry if I'm butchering this, hijab, is that how you say it?
Yeah, hijab.
Hijab,
yeah. For that, it's not really fair that they were accusing her of being racist or not sensitive to religion, but she had her own religion and it went against her religion to wear it. So I feel like she shouldn't have to choose her the other religion over her religion in that aspect.
It's interesting. I think what gave her such a bad look is she's an Asian woman commenting deeply on other races. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, because she did make this statement about the hijab that I don't want to wear something that oppresses women on behalf of Israel. She threw that in there. So, it's mildly offensive. Super offensive if you're a Muslim, probably. And then also with do you remember the tweet, Adam?
She was responding to a black person who was basically calling out white cops for killing black people, and she responded with statistics of black on black crime, which are extraordinarily high. That part's true. But the part of it that I think was probably more offensive or controversial was she said, I believe, fix problems in your own community before calling out other people. And that to me is borderline, because it's not really her place to be making that argument. Same thing with the hijab. I think it's totally reasonable for her to not wear one. I don't know if she should tell other people that it's oppressive for them to wear one. So I can see why I probably disagree with most of her tweets. I can see why a lot of other people do. But the problem I have with it is I don't see any rules that she violated. I don't see any contracts she signed for the competition that said, she wasn't tweeting hate speech or threatening people with violence or stuff like that, so I'm not really sure on what grounds what legitimate grounds they have to say you're out, other than wanting to avoid the media attention.
That's true. It would be interesting to see what their official policy is.
Right.
Do they talk to everyone when they're in the competition about what's expected of them if they win and things like that?
That's a good point.
Be interesting to know, yeah.
I think they just immediately in the media and probably the composition just saw that, hey, she was labeled racist, and just having that label, that stigma, just like the whole, sex offender thing, or like people caught up in that, like even the ones that weren't so bad, like Neil deGrasse Tyson or Aziz Ansari. But once that's attached to you, that's just such a powerful thing. So they might have said, oh my God, what's she doing? She's on the news. They're calling her racist. All right, she's done. Like they probably didn't even get that deep into it. I bet.
That's true. Once they get a label, then, not everybody sticks around to find out all the facts. They just hear that and then they can't change their mind about the person. And then they've just, ruined their reputation. So
Absolutely.
It's really sad that it works that way, but.
Well, fun fact: Trump hired her immediately after this, so
That's
she's
true.
now.
Oh, did he really?
She's now
Yeah.
working for the Trump campaign.
For what? Like, what's her role in his?
He just said he hired her.
She's
it's a
probably
good
doing
part of
something
his
small,
staff.
like in the campaign, but that's a good publicity
She'll probably be
move.
Secretary of Education or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that
Awesome.
she's like doing something that she enjoys, and like even though she got stripped of that, at least she's doing something like she's passionate about still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So, all right. So this one's interesting. I used to go to bars a lot, especially in the Navy. It was a big part of culture. Been to a lot of bars all over the world, and I thought this was pretty interesting. This 28-year-old bartender. Her last name is Glass, and she's facing prison time after serving a man who went on to shoot 8 people in his ex-wife's house. Okay, so we've all been to bars before to varying extents. What role does a bartender really play in the well-being of her patrons?
Well,
What do you guys think?
yeah, I mean, in the article it said that she was being charged for violating, you're not supposed to serve somebody who's visibly drunk or armed, and he was both at the time that she served him. And there were other witnesses there. But I don't know if it was really exactly her fault, because she wanted to call the police. And it was the manager of the bar who said, no, don't.
Wow. But she's still the one getting charged because she was
Yeah.
actually serving him.
Yes.
Damn.
And I think there are text messages between her and her boyfriend where she's like saying,
Yeah,
this guy is
there are.
crazy. So it kind of establishes that she knew that something was up, but she still served him, I guess.
Mhm.
And that's enough to violate that code,
Yeah.
I guess.
But in the long run, I feel like he's the only one who should be like tried for it. Because
Yeah.
how was she supposed to know that he was gonna go do this kill 8 people? She couldn't.
It's so random.
Couldn't have
There's no way
known.
she could have known.
Like
that.
maybe she could be fired from her job or something, but being tried for this for a guy murdering people
Yeah.
when she was just doing her job, and she tried to stand up to her manager and she couldn't, like you were saying. I just don't think she should have been tried.
I guess from just reading about it too, this was such an extreme example because this dude apparently had a knife. He was spinning around on the table.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just seemed like the ultimate creeper, and she just kept serving him. But then, I don't know, I really don't think that should equal jail time. Although, what if it was the same situation, the guy went off and got a DUI or crashed and killed some people, then I'd be more apt to charge her. Because I think the issue for me is that this dude had that murder planned. I don't think getting that hammered,
Yeah.
say he's 20% hammered, or 90% hammered, I think he's still going to do this crime regardless. If he had the gun, it was his ex-wife's house, he had a motive. So I don't know that those few extra drinks were the turning point. I mean, he was probably planning this regardless.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, it's just, I was gonna say, I think maybe she was scared too. She's if I don't start him, is he gonna shoot me? I think they could have been part of fear for her life too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
I was thinking that too. I was gonna say that's another angle. Is she sees that the guy's visibly, intoxicated and creepy, but yeah, you on the one hand you'd think maybe I shouldn't serve this guy, but on the other hand you'd think, what's this guy gonna do if I don't serve him? You
Yeah.
know?
He already
that's-
had a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's I could see that
Yeah.
going through your mind too. I'm staying out of this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and I agree with you. I would be more inclined to see the connection if it was a DUI or something where it's directly related to the alcohol.
Yeah.
In the case of murder like that, I don't think the alcohol is really playing much of a role either
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, the dude's already armed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not like he left there and bought all the weapons and then went to do it because he was drunk.
Maybe it made him more confident when he went and
Yeah,
did it.
that's
And
what
like,
I'm saying.
yeah, like he was gonna do it either way. Yeah. So.
Most people would not, suddenly decide to murder somebody after having a couple drinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
One other interesting thing, I think near the end of the article, it mentioned that she was the only one, like she went to the house, she followed him or something
Yeah.
to the house and called 911, and she was like the only one there to even do anything about it. And then the police like said how you probably saved lives tonight, and they were saying that she did such a good job, and then it's like this complete turnaround where they charge her, even though in the moment they were saying, it's great what you did.
That'll help her in court for sure, though,
Yeah.
that she made an effort like that.
I agree with you that I could see her potentially losing her job because she did almost certainly violate rules of her employment, but I don't see a legal case against her at all.
Yeah.
I don't.
She had no control in him like going and murdering
No.
people.
I think the minute he pulled out a knife and put it on the bar, that's like, all right, dude, you're cut off.
Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna keep dealing with a guy like that?
And like, does it say? I didn't read the full thing. But does it say if she like tried to say anything to him? Like, like did she try to cut him off? But then he might have said something to her. Like that could have
It's a
been
good
a factor
point.
too.
Yeah, I don't know if she had tried or not. She might have just been afraid to tell him no. He was like a dangerous looking dude like that.
I mean, I would assume that most bars have security, like so. I mean, you usually have like bouncers or whatever in a bar. So she probably did still make a mistake. Like even if she was intimidated, I think it was a mistake. That's why I could see her losing her job. I definitely don't see her getting arrested or being at all connected to the murders themselves.
Gotcha. So let me ask you guys this: have any of you, let's be honest here, ever been cut off or kicked out of a bar?
No.
No.
I've been with friends who have.
While you were out there, they got kicked out,
I'm like
and you just stayed and kept having a good time.
No, I left with her, but she was really drunk and just fell, and they were like, "No, get out of here."
My wife did that double deuce. We were like dancing, whatever, and it was after we had already hit like 5 or 6 bars downtown, and she like went for the stool wasn't there. Maybe it didn't exist in the first place, and she fell and it was crowded, and the dude was just like, "No, man, you're good." And actually, me and my buddy Krokenberger got kicked out when I was on the base in A school in the Navy, and we knew the bartender pretty well, so we didn't think he would get so pissed. But when he was serving other people, we just kind of reached behind the bar and refilled our own beers,
Oh, no.
and then just like
Like a
left the
dude.
cash on there. And he looked at us, and this dude knew us for 2 years straight. We were good friends. He was just like, shook his head slowly, and we're like, "Damn it, man!" So we had to find another bar after that. But anyway, so what about you, Adam? You ever kicked out?
I don't really go to bars, honestly. Like
Not so much.
I drink at home usually.
Gotcha. Nice.
Yeah.
That's safe.
I also
Keep it
don't
safe.
like. I never get that drunk. Like I've never blacked out or like fallen over or anything like that. Yeah.
Oh, you don't know what you're missing.
I feel like I do. I'm missing like headaches, puking, all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm good
You
with
want to miss
avoiding
that.
it.
You want to miss that.
Yeah, I've had friends who like on their 21st birthday, like they got too crazy and got kicked out. But I feel like that's all, like that happens a lot on 21st.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true. Those bar drinks can be pretty strong, especially when you're pretty new with the whole drinking situation. So, Whitey Bulger, you might have heard of this guy, was recently murdered in prison when he was, I believe he was in his 80s. But he had a life of crime. He's a notorious criminal out of Boston, I believe. And so, a house where he legitimately murdered 3 people went up to sale in Boston. It's not a huge house, less than 2,000 square feet, but it's up for $3 million. But anyway, the point is, would that bother you guys if you knew beyond any doubt, like 3 people were just stabbed to death in the basement of a house? Would you still buy it? Would you still feel comfortable living there? Or would it be too creepy for you?
Well, personally, I wouldn't want to live in a house like that just because of the notoriety of the place. Because there are people who've bought notorious houses, like, for example, the Amityville Horror House. People live there now, and other people, like, they try to come and visit the house and they want to look around, and I just wouldn't want to deal with random people trying to come to my house and
Like
look
taking
around.
pictures of your
Yeah.
house.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Wanting to tour it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
Plus,
plus
charge them at least.
and plus it's like $2 million for a small house. I'm like, that's not even worth it. Like, I'm sure I could find a much better house for the price.
Yeah, the article said it was assessed at like around 900,000. So it's got to just be the story that's pushing it up to 3.
Well, no, I think one thing they said is there's a second residence on the property.
Well, they said the entire property was assessed at 900,000.
Okay.
At least I think that's how it was stated. But yeah.
So did you feel creeped out living in a house where you knew for a fact people were just brutally murdered?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think I could stay there very long. You know,
Yeah.
like the novelty of it would wear off pretty quickly, and I think it would just always be on my mind. Like we'd just have bad vibes or something. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if I was there alone at night, like by myself, I might like think I hear stuff and like I just get really creeped out and couldn't sleep because like I can't even watch scary movies. I get really scary easily.
I like creepy stuff, so I could almost see it being like appealing in its own way. But I agree with you that the novelty would probably wear off. Like I don't know, I'd have to see it for myself. Like I don't know if I was really in love with the house. I'm not sure if it would necessarily ruin it for me. But I'd have to like see it and feel it for myself because I think it's a mood.
You have to do an open house and just kind of walk through and like, okay, so the people were murdered here. Okay.
Oh
We
yeah.
can deal with that. We got all the bloodstains up.
I also, for Whitey Bulger, the guy who like committed the murder, I don't know if any of you guys knew this, but Jack Nicholson's character in The Departed is based on Whitey Bulger.
Oh,
So yeah,
that makes sense. That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Damn. So let me ask you this, based on some that Amy said. Is there any places where you walk in and you just get like a bad energy? Like, do you think a place can have like a certain kind of feeling to it? Like, if you ever been to Old Town, they have Whaley's Haunted Mansion, and that place is just kind of creepy. Or for me, I went to Israel, and there's just places there, I mean, that have been inhabited for thousands of years, and there's entire just areas where like everything smells different, it feels different, and it's unexplainable, but it's like certain places just felt different and powerful. Like even, I'm not religious, but visiting like the Sea of Galilee and just seeing all the statues, and it was bizarre that there's like people in bikinis just jet skiing on the Sea of Galilee. But do you guys think there's like places can have a different feel to them at all? Do you think so?
For a lot of places that are haunted and people experience phenomenon, it's not necessarily just, them imagining it. There is something called the ghost frequency, which is a certain frequency that like we can't really tell that we're hearing it, but it does cause us to hallucinate and maybe imagine things that aren't there. And that's what a lot of these places have.
Oh,
That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like it makes sense because your mind can like be powerful and can like trick you sometimes into seeing stuff.
Yeah, where I grew up, we had this like mansion that was turned into a museum, and supposedly there were ghosts in there, and I'm not sure. All I know is the house I grew up in was like 100 years old, and there were certain rooms that just, maybe because I was little, I don't know, but just freaked me out, and I just got this like weird sense. So I'm pretty sure somebody died in there, but I don't know the history. So I don't know if that's just me like making up a story, or there's actually some different vibe in there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in that mansion, like people swear, they hear things, they go in different rooms, they see things. I don't know if it's because you suspect it or you're expecting that.
Your
to
mind
happen,
just
but-
going
Yeah.
crazy and
Yeah.
making assumptions.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like what happened living in a murder house. Like in my house, if I hear crazy noise, I'm like, oh, it's the cat, whatever. But then if you're here, you'd be like, oh my god, ghosts! Like you'd be like
Yeah.
on the
You know
haunt,
the
hiding under your
history, so
covers.
you know
like,
you're thinking
It'd be
that,
more
yeah.
rage.
You blame every little thing on the ghost. Probably. Oh man. So before we move on, it's yes or no answer. Believe in ghosts or no?
I'm still up in the air about it, but probably not.
Okay.
I'm kind of the same way. I'd say no. I
No,
don't think so.
ultimately.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't, but I believe that like your mind can trick you into
Yeah.
believing them.
I see. I'm in the same boat. I don't believe him at all. So this one's pretty interesting. The new 007, James Bond, and the new Little Mermaid are both traditionally white characters who will be played by African American actors in upcoming movies this year. And You know, I mean, I don't mind. I have some feelings about it, but ultimately I don't mind. But some people are up in arms about it, whether it's because they hate the, you know, whole liberal agenda quote, where they're just trying to force diversity everywhere, or because they just love the characters so much that they're like, hey, Little Mermaid's supposed to be a red-haired girl with, you know, a green bikini and a red mermaid tail, and it's different. So people hate change in that regard. So what are your guys' thoughts on these changes? Is there any beloved character where you would just feel like, hey man, why'd they change that? Why they have? I'm not racist at all, but why'd they have to change it? Like, is there a part of you that feels that way?
I feel like it really only matters to me if the character's race is closely connected to their identity in the story.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I agree.
Like, what's an example of a character where race would be so ingrained or something?
I can't really think of an example, like right now. I don't know if anybody else has one in mind.
Moana. My son
Moana.
loves that.
Oh
right.
yeah, my daughter
And
loves that movie.
I think that's pretty essential to the, you know.
Yeah.
Like if they made Moana some blonde girl.
Yeah.
Yeah,
then
that would be
pretty
totally
weird.
messed up.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, I feel like people are getting upset because like they like tradition and they're traditional and stuff, so I could see that. But I feel like I don't care that they change them, but I feel like a good way they can do diversity, maybe a better way, is by like adding princesses, like I think like they did with that one Princess and the Frog, like by adding more diverse princesses, you know. So kind of so you don't like break away from tradition, but like you still have that diversity. But like I think for Little Mermaid, it doesn't matter at all because I was actually like with my friend that was talking about this. We were like, she's a mermaid. Like no one said that mermaids have to be white. Like they can be like any color, you know. So it's just like who cares if like they change the mermaid's like race.
I thought it was interesting with the James Bond that she's African American, but also a woman. And she's not going to be called James Bond, but 007.
007,
Yeah,
so she's taking over the code name, yeah.
And it sounds like whatever the current movie is that they're doing, she's going to make an appearance in that and like maybe take over after that and be a movie with her. So I think that's kind of revolutionary that it's a woman.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
it should be interesting.
I don't think I realized that. So because she's not actually. They're not going to call her. It's not James Bond.
No,
it's just
I
double.
mean, yeah.
So
That's
then
what I got from the article at least.
in that
So
case,
she's
I
gonna
don't.
be 007.
In that
so
case,
it's
I don't
like-
really understand why there's any controversy.
Well, because
Yeah.
she's going to be like the figurehead of the franchise.
I guess.
She's
Yeah.
going to be the new.
But I could see it more if people were like, "What? Like James Bond is James Bond. You can't." Because I mean, James Bond's been around for like 50 years. Like I could
Yeah.
sort of understand that. And I mean, he's like a British super spy, you know, and everything. I could see how some people would be a little like have trouble not seeing James Bond as a white guy. But if they're essentially doing a new character, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like, all right, we're gonna carry forward like the franchise and like the style, but with a new agent who's a just totally different character and perspective. I don't know why people care, because I feel like if you're uninterested, like there's still a billion James Bond movies that you can watch whenever you
Yeah.
want. So
Well, I can't. That's interesting. And like one way that I do think people would be bothered, like I know my dad is a lifelong James Bond fan. He had all the movies on VHS. We used to watch. You know, I've seen a good amount. He's seen all of them. And so I think for a lot of people, you know, James Bond is like one of the most iconic characters. He's like, you know, an everyday dude, but he's also a ladies' man. He scuba dives. He's an assassin. So he's just a badass. You know, to a lot of people, he's probably the, you know, most badass male character. And so I think for them, it was probably just a harder pill to swallow. But at the same time, I see they're probably trying to adapt this series that's been around since the 60s or 70s and make it more modern by making it more diverse. So
I guess the way I see it is like if you hate an update of something, you always still have the version you already love. Like to go like I would have trouble like for like a good example for me. I think I would have trouble with Batman being black. Like that's a character that I just have a certain like you know I
sure,
thought
that's a
of
good
it.
example.
That would,
Yeah, I
but
like
having
Batman.
said that, I wouldn't have a problem with them making a Batman starring a black guy. I think that's
Well,
fine.
they did that with Spider-Man, that
Yeah.
highly acclaimed.
Right.
What was that called?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, Into the Spider-Verse. That's right.
Wasn't that like a cartoon or something?
Yes.
Yeah,
We
yeah, it was.
just loved
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
exact-
character
that's
was
good,
already
right?
he was established in the comics before that too. So he's been
Okay.
around for a little while as the
Mhm.
next Spider-Man.
Okay.
But it's almost like the whole movie was an answer to this because there was like a chubby Spider-Man, there was like a girl Spider-Man who was
Yeah.
badass.
Or
Right.
Cake Spider-Man.
Yeah, Pig Spider-Man. So it was almost like anybody can be Spider-Man. But,
Peter Porker.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a good movie for sure.
Mhm.
Animated or not.
But then for that, like they made that, but then they also made like an original like white Spider-Man after that. So it's not like they
Yeah,
like, changed
they were-
Spider-Man.
It's
yeah.
a
Spider-Man
different like
Homecoming.
timeline.
Yeah,
So they have
true.
multiple things going
I
on.
think there's like that famous remake of The Wizard of Oz with all black people, like The Wiz. I think that's like
Oh,
if
really? I
yeah,
see that.
I haven't actually seen it. I just know about it. But I think like if you have any issues with reinterpretations of something, just don't see it and stick with the one you like. And
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why you'd have a problem with people making it. Like
I know,
you
yeah.
can just not see it or not support it if
People
you don't
get
like
so
it.
outraged.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this exists. I hate it.
Like I'm not gonna go see Ben Affleck play Batman. Like, but you know they made it. I'm not going out there protesting. I just didn't pay to see it.
Yeah. I thought you did a decent job, but nowhere near as good as Christian Bale.
I
for
don't
sure.
want to see anyone else play Batman. Or like,
Well, another example of this that happened recently was the Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel,
Yeah.
or was played by Brie Larson, and so there was a lot of controversy, at least among hardcore fans.
Yeah, it happened
But,
with Doctor Who as well. You know, the most recent Doctor is female. After
Oh,
many
really?
years of
I didn't know that.
white male.
Whoa,
And
I didn't know
it was
that.
very controversial when it was discussed for a while before that, but then they finally did it. And it seems like it's been fine.
So is that a brand new show, or that's like just a new
It's the
season
same,
of the same show?
it's the same show because the Doctor like regenerates. It's the same Doctor, but it's been established that they can regenerate into women too in their
Okay.
lives.
Mm.
Interesting. I'll keep things interesting. Switch on. May as well turn into a woman once in a while, so
Yeah.
keep things spicy, I guess. Wow. All right, so you may remember Jussie Smollett. He had the hoax where he talked about he got jumps, but then those guys got paid. So what's going on with that now, Shan? Was there any updates?
Well, it seems like he's going to be tried again because people obviously realized that he really seems like he's guilty, but he was let off for that.
Yeah.
So they brought in a new prosecutor that's going to hopefully try him justly, but he's fighting back against that. He claims that he was still attacked and that it wasn't a hoax.
Wow.
So-
Man, I don't know how he's even putting together that argument. Because the two guys he hired are on video, and they say he paid them $3,500 each. So I don't know what leg he has to stand on defending himself.
I just think whatever mental state he was in that made him do that in the beginning is also like letting him think maybe he actually believes that he's innocent. Maybe he's like so confused now that he doesn't realize that he's lying. Possibly.
Oh,
I don't know. I think you have to, have some kind of mental issue if you're going to fake something like that and think, you're going to come out the hero. So.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a compulsive liar for sure. I'm sure we've all known those kind of people, and it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I don't understand why he did it because he already has such a big like career and stuff. It's like he didn't need to draw more attention to himself. He was already like in a really show that was doing really well, in a good show that was doing really well. Like I feel like he probably had like a good amount of money and stuff already. It just seemed kind of pointless to make it up.
Yeah, it's almost like he got greedy and was like, oh no, like I'm already here in my career. There's just like massive top 5%. It's like, but I need more. And so he did this crazy hoax and completely backfired on him. What do you think, Adam?
I have to agree with Amy that he might be like completely insane because I don't know if he actually
Yeah.
believes that he's innocent or not. But either way, I think he has to be like kind of insane to a degree to have been doing any of this. Like I don't know. I mean, or maybe he's just a compulsive liar. Either way, I don't have a lot of respect for the guy. But
Yeah.
I definitely think he's guilty. And I also think he definitely got let off because of essentially just being connected in the right places.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
that's why he did in the first place for sure.
Yeah, I mean that we often hear about white privilege, and that's definitely a thing. But I think what's more privilege, the privilege that transcends race, is rich privilege.
Yeah,
it has
wealthy
nothing to do with
privilege.
race, and that's what he got.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know. Whether he really believes what he's saying or not, I think he's guilty for sure.
So what should the punishment be then for coming up with this whole elaborate hoax? Everybody with a brain knows that you're guilty. and it just costs thousands of dollars in manpower for these cops. What kind of sentence would you guys like? Like, if you were the judge, what sentence would this guy get? Knowing what you know now, I'd say he definitely gets a year in prison for sure, and then has fines or something.
Yeah.
Because it's just sends such a bad message that he did that.
Yeah, I don't really know a lot about like that kind of stuff, like how long of terms or how long you have to serve jail for doing certain crimes. But I think he should at least get fined, and like, yeah, I guess a year is probably like a good general, like he didn't kill anyone, but like
Yeah.
he did lie, so I guess that's like a good like general sentence.
Yeah, I think him serving some time in prison might be a good humbling experience.
Yeah,
He
for
probably
sure.
wouldn't fare too well there as an actor, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think he obviously wasted money and resources, and he lied, under oath and lied to police. So those are all crimes. But I think the other part of it too that makes it more serious is he was intentionally trying to stoke like racism and violence.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
he's
Yeah.
intentionally trying to start conflicts and further conflicts between black and white people.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
essentially creating tension and violence that already exists and doesn't need to be added to.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think, and then what he even did to the people he paid off, he just totally threw them under the bus and
Yeah.
was gonna sell them out and try to get away. So yeah, I think some prison time definitely
Is
is
justified,
justified.
For sure. And like one lesson I think that come out of this is that, this dude's drug is attention. It's like he couldn't get enough. He was already getting tons of attention. It's like, no, they're about to write me out of the series. I need more. And it's like, really, in a lot of cases or situations, attention is the ultimate drug. And people, totally destroy themselves just trying to get it.
Sounds like a narcissist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I was reading about it recently, but narcissists, I think, can tell lies, and they totally believe that what they're saying is the truth, even though like everybody else knows that it's a lie. So that can be the answer.
And you
It's
probably,
probably a
yeah,
narcissist.
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
How many of
Yeah.
us heard of Jussie Smollett before all of this?
Yeah,
right?
good
Good
point.
point.
Yeah.
Although now you've
Not
heard
for
of
the
him,
good
but he's
reasons.
infamous. Oh man. All right. So, 4 leading Democratic candidates, including Kamala Harris, who's currently ranked 3rd among all of the candidates, and Cory Booker, also pretty popular, are in favor of decriminalizing prostitution. So, I've been all over the world. Most countries it is legal except for here, except for Nevada, of course. And then explain to me, why is it a crime in the first place?
Well, just to guess, America has very Puritan roots.
Good point.
Very
Yeah,
true.
you hit the nail on the head with that. I feel like, yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
think
definitely religion playing a role in that.
I think the prostitution itself is less of a crime. There's a lot of crime that goes into it behind the scenes.
That's true.
Like, there's a lot of bad things that happen between prostitutes and pimps, stuff. But I think the physical act of paying for sex in itself, to me, isn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a moral thing. Like, people are like, oh, well, they shouldn't be doing that with their body and stuff. But I guess it's their body, and they like
Right.
if they want to like if they want to put themselves through that and like possibly like deal with like consequences. Like, I don't know if like I feel like that has to be hard on your like mental like I don't know. It's like your mental like health, but if they want to put themselves through that, like, it's their choice. And
So
Exactly.
you would make it legal, like if it was your decision right now,
I
to
mean,
make all prostitution legal.
I don't know. I wouldn't want that big, like that much, because like I'm like impartial either way, and like I don't think I want to be the one to make that decision.
I thought it was interesting that the main reason they want to decriminalize it is so that the women can feel like they can come forward and report crimes. So I think that's a good thing. It might make it less dangerous. Less
Yeah.
That's a
criminal
good-
activity, going on in the whole environment. So
To me, that's the
Sure.
main argument
Yeah.
because, like I said, right now the dangerous part of prostitution is the fact that it's illegal. It's
Yeah.
usually run by people who are gangsters or dealing drugs or all sorts of other things. They beat the woman frequently, and
Yeah.
or if that woman does get into trouble, they can't usually go to the police, or it's because of what. So yeah, I think I think a lot of the more dangerous aspects of it actually would be removed in a legal. Say if you go to like a legal, I mean I've never been, but like I've never even been to Nevada at all. But if you go to like a legal brothel, at least from what I understand, those people are. You know that they're tested, they're clean, they're people who are there willingly by their own choice. They're not being, beaten or abused or stuff. So, I mean, to me, it's not a service that I would have any interest in using, but like,
Sure.
I don't believe in paying for it. I'd rather earn it, but if I don't have a moral problem with somebody doing that. If it's consensual, the guy who's paying for it and the girl who's doing it, and there's no abuse taking place, like I don't see anything morally wrong with that.
Yeah, it's interesting, like especially in 2019 with all the technology we have. I mean, it's probably fairly easy to put together a system where you're like, okay, everybody's tested once a month, and then we have the registry, like, okay, everyone's clean. Oh, you're due for testing. Like, it's probably a responsible way to run it, too, if they were to do that. But let me ask you guys this. What impact would this have on family? Like, say we're 3 years into prostitution being legal, so there's brothels literally in every city. And if you're 15 minutes away from brothel, no matter where you are in the country. So how would that affect families, just in general?
I mean, I think that could affect them, but it's just like, if the guy is gonna like cheat on his wife, he's gonna cheat on his wife. Like he's not gonna it's not gonna change. It's not going to change like a person's mentality. If they're either going to do it, they're not going to do it.
Well, what are they going to say? Like, oh, it's legal now, so I can go there.
Yeah. No, it's not going to change how they feel about it.
It's like, look what I got you for your birthday.
Season
pass. Oh my god.
Oh man.
I can't imagine it would get to that point where it was like just like widespread on every corner. Because I feel like there would always be some stigma against it. It's like even with pot being legal, you can't just open a dispensary anywhere. Yeah. There's still a lot of rules about it.
That's true.
But
yeah, and like there aren't like strip clubs on every corner. So I think it'll kind of be like strip clubs or like they'll be in like certain places, but not like.
Not like every
not every corner.
I agree with you too. Like even if it does maybe create like more obvious temptation, I think a guy who's going to cheat is a guy who's going to cheat. And theoretically, if you're really interested in prostitution, like that stuff's already available now if you know where to look for it. So I'm not sure if it would change that much, but maybe. I don't know.
I think it'd be kind of like the change of weed in two ways. Like not only would it makes it easier, like people who maybe were always curious about it, but were like don't have a criminal bone in their body, wouldn't have tried it, but now they will since it's legal. And then also safer, because like buying weed 20 years ago, you're just with some shady people. You don't know if they're gonna kill you and take your money or what. But now you just walk into a dispensary with security guards, whatever. This is all what I heard about. So this is just what I heard about. I read a lot, so
it's legal. It's okay.
So yeah, it was pretty interesting one. All right, so our last two both have to do with changes and beloved holidays that we've celebrated for our whole life. Amy, what are they doing with Halloween? Why are they trying to change Halloween?
So there's a petition. I think the last I saw it had 100,000 signatures. A petition to change Halloween from the 31st of October to the last Saturday of October. And the reasoning behind that is they think it would be safer for kids. More parents will be able to go trick-or-treating with their kids because they won't be working. They have a day off. You have the next day off, so it kind of makes the celebration the entire weekend instead of one day. So that's the reasoning behind it. So what do you guys think? If that would be a good thing or not?
Why does a petition matter? Like, I feel like you walk at Albertsons and there's like 3 dudes with petitions for something, and it's like, okay, like I've even signed them before. But it's like, okay, if they get 1 trillion signatures, is that really going to change it? Like, what is the value of even doing
I think that just calls attention to it. So it's like an official thing. It's like, hey, we have this many people who are on board with this. This is what we want.
Theoretically, you can send them to like Congress members or stuff like that, to get attention on an issue. But definitively, it doesn't mean anything.
It's like, if I get to 500,000, it becomes a law.
Definitively, it doesn't mean anything.
It still has to make the decision, but it's giving support to it, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like the value of petitions has kind of decreased in recent years because there's so many petitions on the internet, and a lot of them are utterly ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's no way they could ever go through.
Like the Game of Thrones one.
Yeah,
where
right.
there's a
I
million
think that's
people,
social. That's the effect of social media, because now it's so easy to just start any ridiculous trend and a lot of people will just kind of be like, oh yeah, because they don't really have to put effort in. Like they're not going to a place to sign a thing and just click a button or whatever.
Yeah. I think it's a good way for them to vote on it, like not officially vote, but like you said, like give it to Congress or whatever. Because this isn't just like a show; it's like a holiday, like it's been around forever, so it's a little bit more official.
Yeah, at least they have a legitimate issue instead.
I don't like the show.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with it personally, but I wouldn't freak out about it either way. Honestly, I don't think I could ever not see Halloween as October 31st. But it's really about trick or treating, and my trick or treating days are long behind me, so I don't really care. I mean, I'd probably watch my horror movies on the 31st either way.
I think it's different when you have kids because it is kind of a hassle. If you work that day, the kids have school. Then the next day there's school and they're tired because you keep them up too late, all that stuff. So for that reason, I would be behind it.
And they eat their body weight in candy.
Yeah, exactly. They're crazy. And they never go to sleep. But otherwise, tradition, it's kind of weird to not have it on the 31st. I mean, that's just in our culture. It's in songs and movies, and So I'm torn, I guess.
And there's an origin behind it, too.
Yeah, there's a reason, right?
Yeah, there's that is All Hallows Eve. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what culture that originated from, but yeah, theoretically, that's the night that the dead souls come out and roam. Not that I believe that's true, but it adds some character to the whole thing.
That's when Jack Skeleton. I saw the movie.
Yeah.
And then the next day is Dia de los Muertos, and so it kind of leads it leads into it. Mm-hmm. So I can see how it has tradition. But, I mean, it's not like they're changing Christmas or, 4th of July or something, it's a smaller holiday, so, I wouldn't care as much about it. So
it'd be okay to break the tradition.
It really just comes down to the day everybody decides to do trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Because growing up, I grew up in a really cold climate where sometimes it would snow on Halloween. In fact, we had, our biggest snowstorm on Halloween night. So once in a while, there's something like weather that gets in the way and the whole city decides, hey, we're going to postpone trick-or-treating until whatever. It's like that with fireworks, right? Sometimes
it
they
can
get
be
rained out and it's like, hey, we're going to do it next weekend instead. So, for that reason, you could still celebrate it on the 31st. It's just when does everybody get together and decide everybody's going to go trick-or-treating?
I feel like that's a good point. I feel like the message would only reach half the country too. I feel like on that Tuesday when it's actually Halloween, you'd still be getting trick-or-treaters. You're like, no idiots. It's been moved to Saturday. And I feel like that would go on for probably a decade.
I feel like you never...
People are like, no,
you're never... even if
31st.
Yeah, even if you change the law, I don't think you'll ever get to the point where there aren't still people celebrating it on the 31st. Cause it's always...
In protest even.
Yeah, right. There'll still be... And then, I could see that happening.
But I think changing it on the calendar, not everyone uses wall calendars, but everyone has a calendar on the phone, and I feel like I look at it like this year I saw that Thanksgiving was a later day than usual, even though it's always the fourth Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would look at it and be like, oh, Halloween is the last Saturday instead of 31st. I feel like people would know, but yeah, it'd be a protest.
Like I said, even for me, and I'm not that old, relatively speaking, even for me, it just feels like I've been celebrating on the 31st for too long to not look at the calendar and be like, that calendar's lying. I wouldn't.
That's right. And even having a 2-year-old, I didn't see it as a big deal that it was on a weekday because, I had work, other people had stuff, but I mean, you get home from work, we walked around the neighborhood, we all dressed like Batman villains. And I hand out candy for a while. It's 9:30, 10. I don't know. I don't see how it can't be done on the normal day. But I guess, with older children, it could be more inconveniences and stuff.
Yeah, and I noticed, so last year I stayed home to give out candy on Halloween. And I noticed, since it was daylight savings time, everyone was out trick-or-treating at 6 p.m. So, they were out earlier anyways.
So it was all done by 8:30 or 9 or something?
Seems that way at my house, too. People show up early if they show up at all.
Yeah.
That daylight savings time really changes things. It'll be pitch black at 4:45 out here. So, second one, it's a lot more controversial, Columbus Day. And a lot of states, including Maine, are changing Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day. And there's some people up in arms about this because, they've always known it as Columbus Day. So it's like, hey, why are you changing it in the first place? But also, he's an historical figure. We grew up learning about him in school. And now, there's just a lot more coming out about how he was an evil bastard. He would murder and, chop people's limbs off when they didn't work. And there's just a lot of horrible, horrible stories about him. So what do you guys think? Do you support leaving it the way it is? Like, hey, why are you trying to be all uppity and change it? Leave it Columbus Day. Or are you in the other camp that's like, yeah, it should be Indigenous Peoples Day. This guy didn't discover anything. He didn't even know what he was doing. Plus all the murder and stuff. So which one do you guys think?
Well, I'm on the side of Indigenous Peoples Day, definitely, because I don't really see a reason to celebrate Columbus, because he did a lot of awful things, and I think it would be good to celebrate the people, that were affected by that instead.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And I think maybe even like making it not about people, but more about like the reason. That might be an option too. But yeah, I guess Columbus, like you said, he didn't know what he was doing. Like he thought this was India, so it's just like, why did he get all the credit?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I got no love for Christopher Columbus. I don't think he really. Yeah, I think it's sort of a misnomer that he discovered America, and he obviously did a lot of bad things. Honestly, though, like it's such an insignificant. I literally don't even know what month Columbus Day is in. Like I couldn't tell you. It probably passes every year without my knowledge. So, considering that I don't really care about it now, it's not really an issue that I've ever thought about. But I'm definitely fine with changing it to Indigenous Peoples Day because I don't think there's any reason to celebrate Columbus.
For sure. My great-great-grandmother was a full-blooded Cherokee, and I know there's a lot of other tribes out there, and so yeah, I'm 100% on board with the Indigenous Peoples Day. So I think the weird thing about this is just the idea that, but a white guy went over, so now it was discovered, and it's like, I feel like now, just in the last decade, we're really just starting to wake up to, hey, wait a minute, the Native Americans' opinion is every bit equal to, Spain sending a ship over, claiming it was discovered, making a map out of it. No, their opinion and lives are every bit as valuable. So it's I think there's just a lot more of this, with the Confederate statues being torn down, and there's just a lot more, apologizing for things of the past, or making an effort to make them right and that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm definitely in favor of Indigenous Peoples Day. So let me ask you this. What kind of people would have a problem with this? What kind of people do you see having a problem with this? Who are the people that are up in arms why are you trying to change it? And that kind of thing.
So in the article, it mentioned that Italian Americans might be upset about it because
good point.
It's part of their culture to celebrate it.
So he's like a major
He was
hero.
an Italian explorer. That's the only thing I can see.
Some people I think are just pure traditionalists too, and that they don't like anything
Yeah.
to change. I think you always have to deal with an element of that.
Yeah, I definitely think that. And also, I believe that he did all that stuff, but, people who, since, it's just now coming up, people might not believe that he actually did all that stuff. They might just think that it's all made up, and so they might not think it's a big deal.
Yeah, a lot of people were taught in school to celebrate Columbus and about, him discovering America.
Yeah.
So it's hard to reverse those
Yeah.
ideas that you already have implanted in your head. So what would you say to the people who are this happened in the past, why are we still responsible for 200 years ago he did these evil things, whatever, he still deserves a holiday, what's the response to that? Or time, does time absolve these crimes?
No.
I think that the only way, to convince them is explain why it should be Indigenous Peoples Day. You're not going to be able to, convince them, against Columbus, so you're just going to have to, be the Indigenous people, this is why they deserve it.
That makes a lot of sense, for sure. All right. Anyone else want to touch on that at all? We good?
I think I'm good.
All right, it's cool. Let's start out with our quotes then. Amy, you want to give it a shot?
Okay, so mine is from Flannery O'Connor, and she was an American writer. She wrote short stories mostly. One you might have heard of, her book is a good man is hard to find. So her quote is, "I am not afraid that the book will be controversial. I'm afraid that it will not be controversial."
Nice, I like that.
My kind of artist.
Okay, well, my quote is from George Orwell. We all know him, 1984, Animal Farm. And he said, "Within any important issue, there are always aspects no one wishes to discuss."
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, mine's definitely very connected along the same theme. It's really short and simple. It's from one of my top 3 favorite filmmakers, Lars von Trier. He's a foreign filmmaker. But he said, "Political correctness kills discussion."
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, we've seen it all the time now.
Alright, so mine's by Eleanor Roosevelt, and it says, "Great minds discuss ideas, average minds discuss events, and small minds discuss people."
Oh, yeah, that's like a common sign.
Yeah.
That does seem high.
Yeah, I think it's a good one.
You
Yeah.
know, quote's popular when they start making signs. So mine's by a controversial dude, Carl Jung, one of the forefathers of philosophy, or psychology, my bad. And says, "You meet your destiny on the road you take to avoid it."
Nice.
Interesting, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening to episode 48 of the Rogue Writers podcast. Find a full list of our episodes at nowmediagroup.tv/rogue-writers. Connect with us and send us feedback at roguewritersSD@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook at Rogue Writers Podcast and Twitter at Rogue Writers Pod. Check out Nick's guest blogs on beautysmoothie.com and Google SEOtrends.com. Find Adam's novel, Reclaim Your Mind, on Amazon. And check out Tori's YouTube channel at Tori Rach Cortez. Thank you to Dirty Rose Productions for our music, and thanks to all of you for tuning in. We hope to join you next time.
Bye.
Bye, guys.